What were the biggest takeaways against the New York Jets? What are the biggest storylines coming in against the Cleveland Browns in week 2 of the preseason? All that and more on the latest edition of Party on Raw. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today is our quick summary recap of the Eagles, the starters and second string impressive debut against the New York Jets. And then we're going to deep dive into this week's matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Guys, if you're new to the channel, if you're watching us live, please be sure to smash that subscribe button. We are sharing on multiple platforms tonight. Philly Sports Alliance, my guy Ryan over there. Go check them out on Facebook and Edge of Philly Sports, our newest partnership. Go check out Edge of Philly Sports. Joining us tonight, my man Dylan. He is at DylanJD98 on Twitter. My man, the co-founder of DSM Radio, DSM Media. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out, like YouTube, Facebook, you name it. They're everywhere. Dylan, it's been way too long, man. How you doing, bro?
It's been a while, man. It feels good to be back talking sports with you, talking Eagles with you. And even though it's just preseason, we'll have some fun with it tonight because there were a few things that made us happy and a little bit hopeful for this upcoming year.
Absolutely, guys. My man Rob, I don't know where he's at. Rob, if you're watching,
Rob's asleep.
Wake up, Rob. Wake up, man. Maybe Rob will join us a little bit down the line, but I'm going to throw this one right to you. Before we get into Cleveland Browns, let's kind of do a quick recap against the Jets, man. What was your biggest takeaway of that game?
So it's weird, right? There's a few takeaways, but when you want to get to biggest, like your eyes go to the game that Nakobe Dean had, right? Your eyes go to all of the attention that Jordan Davis gathered from the New York Jets offensive line, and you see it on the tape afterwards, you know, how he really is going to impact the run game defensively for the Eagles. Kaiser White, new linebacker to the group, and it picks off Zach Wilson on their first drive. So a lot of positives defensively, but then offensively, just for the 35 seconds they were on the field, how can you not just, even though it's preseason, even though it's the Jets, even though it's one series, I get it. How can you not just be more optimistic today than what you were before 7:30 on Friday night when it comes to Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense? And it wasn't so much some of the throws he made. It wasn't the fact that he was 6 for 6, right? It wasn't the fact that he finished off the drive with a touchdown. It was his ability to spread the ball around, right? And again, one series, one drive, completely got it. But when you look at all the reports throughout training camp, how he's keyed in, he's zoned in on A.J. Brown, and is he going to be able to distribute the ball and get other guys involved? Because Watkins had 2 catches. Dallas Goedert had a catch or 2. I want to say Zach Pascal maybe had a grab. But he just got the ball around. He got everybody involved, and that was one thing I really liked to see. Now, he did escape the pocket with a clean pocket one time. I believe it was the play that he got hit out of bounds with that cheap shot to the head, which was total BS. But outside of that, I thought he just looked a lot cleaner and smoother than what I saw at the end of last year.
Yeah, kudos to Nick Sirianni for, kind of reading the room, because what I wanted to see from not just Jalen Hurts, but the Eagles offense in general is that the Eagles need to be better at moving the ball downfield through the air. And I like how they went bang, 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 like 6 straight throws.
Yep.
And I want to see more of that. Like, I don't expect the Eagles to be throwing the ball 100% of the time when the regular season starts. But I like that they're gonna, they're working on it. I love the tempo, the pace we saw from that offense. There was a lot of positives from the starters, not just on offense, but defense as well. My biggest takeaway, man, was that these last two drafts are looking pretty nice. When you look, like, I'm a draft guy, and when you look at Devontae Smith, like, if there was like one takeaway of Devontae last year, it's that he should have had more targets, more yards, more touchdowns. There are plenty of missed opportunities there last year for Devontae. Landon Dickerson's absolutely massive. He's going to be an all-pro sooner than later. You got Mill Williams. I think he's a solid rotation guy. I think he could be possibly a breakout candidate in 2022. Zach McPherson had a really strong camp. Kenny Gainwell is going to take a next step, especially on the ground, because he's already a beast as a receiver in the backfield. And then you get to this class: Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and Nakobe Dean. I love the fact that the Eagles are in the process of building a contender. They're not there yet, Dylan. They're in the process of building a contender, with the core of the team being the last two drafts, man. You look at top to bottom, man. It's looking really positive right now. When you look at next year, I know we're talking about 2022, but let's look next year. 2 first-round picks. Who knows if Jalen Hurts is the guy? But they're building around a young core, and what's more freaking exciting than that? It is a good feeling as someone who, that's like my favorite thing in all sports, and is watching young players improve and develop. I love that. That's like here, and everything else is pretty much on the bottom of the totem pole. But that's exciting.
Well, that's why you're my guy. You and Mark Henry Jr. are the two that I go to for my NFL draft class, for my NBA draft class, because you two start breaking it down the second that last year's draft is over. Like the day after the NFL, day 3 of the NFL draft wraps up, you're on to 2023. So I trust you when it comes to that. But I didn't even bring up Cam Jurgens, and it's a great point. He looked very, very comfortable and very good in his debut in an Eagles uniform, and that's a positive thing when you talk about the fact that Jason Kelce is not healthy at the moment, which we all are, knocking on wood that we trust that he's going to be available by week 1, week 2 at the latest. But he's another year older. If he gets injured or if something happens this season, Jurgens can fill in right now. If Kelce retires at the end of the year, Jurgens is already here. Like, they've done a great job. You're 100% correct at bringing in fresh young blood through the last 2 draft class while also staying competitive. I think they're one of the younger rosters in the entire NFL, with a lot of their core being under 28 years old or 29 years old or something like that. So it's very impressive of what they've done. It's exciting, but you bring up that word, man, contender, right? But what is it to be a contender in the NFC this year? I know we're talking preseason tonight, but they really are one question mark away, that being what is the quarterback, from being a contender.
And I actually broke down a shit ton of the 2023 NFL draft, and that quarterback,
I know you did.
Stacked, absolutely stacked. It's a win-win situation. Either Jalen Hurts balls out, improves inside the pocket, and everything is gravy. The issue is that Jalen Hurts' second contract. That's where things get a little muddy.
Sure.
That's the biggest concern. But the good news is there's options coming, and they're looking nice there. Are you a little surprised with Cam Jurgens' snap count, given that he's going to be thrust into a much heavier role when the regular season starts with Jason Kelce's elbow surgery? Because I'm really interested where we'll talk about the Browns matchup here soon, because he looked outstanding. Like, he was arguably the best player on the field. Getting into that
what was his final snap count?
I'm not sure. I'm not. I could look it up in a second when you go.
No, you're good.
I think I was a little surprised at how much he played and how good he looked, and he stayed in there. So I think that'll be an interesting storyline this week in week 2 of the preseason. Will be that snap count.
It's weird, right? Because we're already down center number 1, and if he's the backup plan, it is a little odd to see him play a ton in week 1 of the preseason. But if we're talking about depth and guys needing to make the roster and this is their time, they're only probably going to carry the 2 centers. So you know what I mean? So like this next guy that comes in after Jurgens Probably not making a team, but sorry, hate to break it to you. But Sirianni was just rolling with what he's got, and then, once Jerkins plays enough, throw out the third guy on the depth chart, and roll with it. But it's fine. He didn't get injured. Knock on wood.
Yeah,
hopefully he doesn't get injured in the preseason. But I'm banking on the fact that Jason Kelce will be a go week 1.
We'll see. I think there's a good chance of that. I think that's a good chance. All right, let's roll on to kind of top news of camp right now. Some real quick hitters. The news of the day is J-Jaw traded to the Seahawks for nickel cornerback Ugo Amadi. Any quick reaction thoughts to the trade?
Nothing to do with what we got back. I'm not even going to try to pronounce my man's name. I'm going to assume he's a practice squad guy or not going to make the roster at all. We were discussing it pre-show, and whatever stat you read me that he was 115th out of 116 ranked quarterbacks last year or whatever, that it doesn't spell a recipe for success here in Philadelphia. Not to mention no Eagles fans would be able to pronounce his name correctly if we can't pronounce Nick Castellanos' name correctly. But the biggest takeaway is that Howie Roseman somehow found a trade partner for J-Jaw. And it's also ironic that now J-Jaw is playing on the same team as DK.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it means absolutely this much to me. Although, like you said, it's a breath of fresh air knowing that they know that was a mistake. They're trying to right that wrong. They're moving on from it, and I'm glad to see it. It's not a guy just because they took him in the second round, just because they took him over a name like DK Metcalf doesn't mean you have to try to make it work for years on end. Move on from it, brush it off your shoulders, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's nothing to get excited about. Per Pro Football Focus, Ugo was the rated 116th out of 117 cornerbacks last year. He's got a lot of snaps on special teams. Outside of that, I mean, these are two guys that were likely cuts. I wouldn't look that much into it. Ken says there will be a test for backups trying to make an NFL team. I think he's talking about the Browns matchup here. Let's roll on to, I think, probably arguably the biggest news of camp this week is Devontae Smith is back after having 2 weeks off. And apparently he's looked very good, man. What does this mean for the roster?
Well, what it means is that we know he's healthy, right? Because when things started to get a little foggy for me in Eagles land last week when Smith, quietly misses 4 or 5 days in a row due to a groin injury. And we know an injury like that can kind of linger or be a problem going forward. And then like a day after he misses his 4th straight day, Jason Kelce is just getting this random procedural clean out of his elbow. They called it routine. No surgery is routine. He's going to be out for a month, maybe a little longer. That's not routine. So things got a little weird for me. Like they're trying to be so cautious and use the scientific way going about camp and short practices. And I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, your injury list was still stacking up. And so I'm like, is Devontae Smith going to be okay? Well, he's back. He's been back for a few days, probably 2 practices, I think, since the preseason game that he missed. And like you said, he's looked phenomenal. So what does it do? As long as he's healthy, knock on wood, that's your wide receiver too. And it makes the offense so much more dynamic because we talk about all offseason at post AJ Brown trade, how he affects Dallas Goedert, how he affects Jalen Hurts, how he helps Devontae Smith. That's 100% true. But them as a pair, them together makes this Eagles offense a lot more dynamic than just AJ Brown and then Quez Watkins or whoever would fill in for Devontae Smith. Those two together is going to be key for this passing attack. And knock on wood, like I said, that they both can stay healthy. And I'm glad to hear that Devontae is now.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. We saw that against the Jets. What AJ Brown means for Dallas Goedert in that intermediate area of the field, that middle of the field area 100%. Where Jalen Hurts needs to probably make 2 steps forward in his growth.
And that touchdown pass was spectacular.
Yeah.
The read was spectacular. The touch was spectacular.
It's amazing, what AJ Brown's going to do to this offense. creating lanes for Quez on a crossing route, or hopefully Devontae with a little more motion in his offense, like in the slot. Devontae, the idea of Devontae Smith going up against CB2, CB3, nickel corners, that's a mismatch every single freaking time. And that is absolutely 100%. An area that if Hurts and Devontae get on the same page, and that needs to grow as well, compared to last year, and it will, I think. But that's definitely something I'm 100% watching, assuming Devontae plays next Sunday against the Browns. But that's going to be so much fun, man. Like, Devontae is in the perfect position to put up huge stats. I don't think people are talking about that. People are like, look at all these targets to A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith I think is going to be one of the biggest weapons, especially like third down wise in the NFL. I think he's going to be wide open.
Well, you saw the flashes last year in his rookie year, and Hurts's basically rookie year, and Sirianni's rookie year, and you saw the struggles throughout the season, but you did see the flashes when it comes to Devontae Smith as a route runner, with his hands, his ability to get open and create plays on third down, as you just mentioned. And think about how we were pleading and begging for them to get him the ball in that playoff loss to Tampa Bay, 100%. Begging for it at halftime. And that was him as wide receiver 1. Like, force feed him the ball because he can be that guy for you in a half of football. Think about him as wide receiver 2, moving around the field, being in the slot, as you mentioned. It's humongous. And I think the guy, I'm being honest with you, I think the guy that benefits the most out of A.J. Brown being here is who scored a touchdown on Friday night. I think that's Dallas Goedert, dude. If they start to utilize the middle of this field, he's a matchup nightmare for teams. With his size and his athleticism and his speed, you put him in between those two dudes with Hurts' rushing ability, with this offensive line. I think Dallas Goedert feast this season.
Love it. Next bit of news. We have Kenny Gainwell. Did not play against the Jets, but he has returned to practice. My boy Kenny G is back. How do you think? What are your expectations for Kenny G this season?
Expectations? I don't know. He's going to play a pretty big role in terms of what this offense is looking for. And I'm one of the guys that thinks Miles Sanders is going to have a good year. I don't think he's going to have a breakout year, but I think Sanders, in terms of what his production was last year, takes a step. It's a huge season for him. It's a contract year. I think either way, he's not back in an Eagles uniform next season, whether he's not any better or whether he has a breakout season. I think he's gone money-wise. But I do think there's a role here for Kenny Gainwell. And you saw it last year, how much they trusted him inside the red zone, inside the 10. He was getting the ball on the goal line, dude. Now, obviously, when they brought Jordan Howard back for the umpteenth time, they were feeding him on the goal line. But Kenny Gainwell was getting in the end zone. He's already a pretty good he's pretty good in pass protection for his size. His speed makes him a threat, and his hands make him a threat out of the backfield. I think you can see him lined up in the slot from time to time this season. So there's definitely a role. As expectations, I don't know. I think he's just kind of a role player, so to speak, for this offense. But there's definitely a niche for him in it with Sirianni.
I fully agree, man. I think Kenny G is going to get more and more touches as the season progresses. I think,
Sirianni loves these kind of guys.
Yeah. I think he's a great fit, and I think it'll be on Sanders. I mean, it's and it always has been. It'll be on Sanders to stay healthy, catch the ball out of the backfield. And I did like what I saw against the Jets from Miles Sanders, because I haven't been the biggest Miles Sanders fan over the last year or so. So we'll see. We will see. Let's keep it rolling before we get to the Cleveland Browns. Andre Dillard and Derek Barnett were getting into it yesterday afternoon. Who would you bet money on between the two in a WWF, WWE steel cage match? Who's your guy?
See, man, I read this question. You sent it to me. I think steel cage is an underrated part of this question, right? Because I'm going with Derek Barnett if I had to put money on it. Derek Barnett, he's not much smaller. I think Dillard only has an inch or two on him. He's more put together. He's quicker than Dillard. I think his stamina, I think he'd be able to outlast Dillard. And in a steel cage match, you have to get over the top, Dobbs. I'll take the athleticism all day with Derek Barnett.
That's 100% where I was going with this. Like, he doesn't have Andre Dillard does not have the versatility to perform in a steel.
No, to outlast, to climb that cage without getting grabbed, no chance.
Britton Covey turns out has sprained ligaments, not torn ligaments, in his right thumb. That is great news. Are you in or out on Britton Covey making the final roster?
I think he'll still make it. I think there's been too much smoke, too much noise surrounding this kid. Not for being a wide receiver, but for kind of his special teams ability and punt return and kick return situations. I think there's definitely a spot for him on this roster. I think they were already pretty high on him for what will be like wide receiver 6 if they keep 6. So I don't think the injury is gonna tear him down too much. I still think he makes the team.
I do too. I was a little disappointed from him. Reed Sinnett stinks, man. I was not that impressed from my guy Reed Sinnett. I thought Covey was going to get a lot more touches. He only got 2 targets. He did have a couple of touches in the return game, but wasn't that great of a debut for Britton Covey. I think we'll see. We'll see week 2. Maybe I was overreacting on my guy. He was my player of the game for the Jets game, and that did not happen. All right. Any final thoughts on the Jets game before we move on to the Browns?
No, man. Like I said, it's preseason. It's the New York Jets. Starters played a series, so let's not make anything of it. But obviously, we would all be dummies to sit here and say we're not at least 1% more optimistic than we were before the game was played, right? Like you can't just be like 6 for 6, 80 yards and touchdown, perfect passer rating. Who cares? It's not who cares. It's not like, oh my God, Super Bowl, like some people are probably thinking in the city, but it's a positive, right?
I mean, look at the defense. Back-to-back plays by Eagles linebackers. TJ Edwards, bang!
Oh, yeah.
No yard gain.
He's another very underrated story heading into this season.
Yep. Next play, bang! Kaiser White with an interception. Like, the Eagles front 7 here is going to be really interesting. We're going to get into it. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns matchup here. The Browns are coming off a disappointing 8-9 season last year. They probably made the most controversial moment of the offseason, adding
probably
the most controversial moment of the offseason. Deshaun Watson signing him to a 5-year contract, $230 million.
And he keeps all.
Yeah, keeps all of it, man. Absolutely nuts. They also added Amari Cooper in a trade. This is a team that's solidly built on the offensive line. They have one of the NFL's best and highest paid guards in Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio. They have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who just requested a trade, but I think he sat out the first preseason game. But I don't know if the Browns are gonna to go with that. I think they're gonna keep him on the roster, right? That's the vibe?
I would assume so.
All right. On defense, the Browns were a top 5 team in the league last year. They've got Myles Garrett, an absolute beast. They've got 2 of my favorite young prospects in the league. When you're talking about Greg Newsome, a cornerback, and one of my favorite linebackers that I wish the Eagles had drafted a couple years ago, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Dude is an absolute monster. You look at the Browns, they've got another young cornerstone piece in Enzo Ward. He's only 25 years old, signed a contract extension, absolute monster, coming off his best year. They also added Jadeveon Clowney to give Myles Garrett some help there. And they also have Grant Delpit, who could be a breakout star this season. So that Browns defense could be really, really interesting in 2022. But let's talk about Jalen Hurts and our expectations against the Browns, man. I'll throw it to you first. What do you want to see from Jalen Hurts against the Cleveland Browns?
So are we expecting, like, these expectations are based off of playing time? Like, we think they're going to play a quarter or so, maybe? Because I have no idea what Sirianni's going to pull out. Maybe he might only play on 2 series. Preseason's so different than it was even 2 years ago, right? With them only having 3 games now. But we'll assume they're playing.
Yeah, I would assume confidence. Like, if if Jalen Hurts puts together 2 or 3 series and they get points on each one and that's healthy, he's out. They'll pull him immediately.
I agree. So again, in terms of expectations for Jalen Hurts, I'll even say regardless of playing time, even if it's one series like it was against the Jets and it goes smoothly, if it's a quarter, whatever it is, it's going to be the same thing I'm preaching week in and week out all year long. And that is just to continue to see consistent improvement in the pocket as a passer. I am not saying he needs to be a pocket quarterback. I'm not saying that. But he needs to improve in that aspect. You cannot just be your numbers out of the pocket on the move to the right side cannot be here, and your numbers as a passer from the pocket are down here. You have to bridge that gap. And when you have a clean pocket, do not take off when you don't see your first read. If your first read isn't there, progress. Second, third option. Then the legs can come in secondary, right? I love the fact that he can be a dual threat. That's secondary to me. That comes after the passing. I would like to see them maybe take one shot down the field and just see what the accuracy on a deep ball looks like if he's got one-on-one with someone. Just all things considered, just being more of a consistent pocket passing quarterback. Show me those improvements week to week, and we can build off of that.
I couldn't agree more. That's everything when it comes to Jalen Hurts. I liked on Friday the check down we saw. I think it was with Miles Sanders. He dead last in the NFL in check downs. Just those simple plays for Jalen Hurts. Just take the simple check down. Take the 4 or 5 yards. Those little things go a long way, and just keeping him in rhythm. Which we saw.
Keeping drives alive.
Keeping drives alive.
It makes your life so much more easier. When if it's 2nd and 10 and your first 2 reads aren't there, just hit the running back for the check down for even if it's 4 or 5 yards. Now you're in a 3rd and manageable. Whereas if you try to force something, if you take off and get hit out bounds a yard up the field, you're at 3rd and long. It just makes life for you so much easier.
Yeah, I would also like to see him on 3rd down a little bit. I would like to see the Browns kind of test him. I know and it's pretty much all vanilla defenses in preseason. But that's another area where Jalen Hurts really needs to grow, especially on 3rd downs. It was not good enough. So you stole all my notes. It really begins and ends when it comes to Jalen Hurts inside that pocket, standing strong in that pocket, pressure or without pressure, and trusting his arm. That alone is directly tied to the ceiling of this Eagles team. The chemistry he has with the receivers, his ability to go through his progressions, see the middle of the field, hit guys in stride, hit those tight windows. That's everything. That is everything. We all know
I agree.
what Jalen Hurts is. I don't understand why he's so divisive. I think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I think he's going to be in the league for a very long time. The question is, can he win you a playoff game? And I want to see that kind of throws us into our next question, is our expectations for the Eagles offense against the Cleveland Browns. What do you got?
Again, when we're talking about preseason, it's so difficult because if the number ones go out there and put 7 up on the first drive or the second drive, or if they score 14 in a quarter, whatever the case may be, 10 in a quarter, I'm happy. And I don't care what Reed Sinet's going out there doing. And I don't care what Gardner Minshew's really going out there and doing. Now, I was glad to see Gardner looked better in the Jets game than he had from the reports coming out of camp and training camp, because we all know how valuable for 1 or 2 weeks a backup can be in this city. So that was positive, but I don't care. That's all mush to me. I want to continue to see the ones go out there. And again, if they're going against the Browns ones, you hit it right on the head. The Browns defense was a top 5 unit last year. They're going to be right around that number again. Maybe a little drop off, maybe a little pickup, but they're going to be right around a top 6, top 7 unit in this league. If you go out there and you can move the ball down the field against this unit, then I'm excited. Then now you've got me more and more hopeful and more positive about what this unit can do in the regular season.
Yeah. It's pretty simple for me. I want to see more of the same. I want to see that same up tempo, passing offense on Sunday against the Browns. You know, I don't. That's going to obviously change with matchups and all that kind of stuff come regular season. But these are the things that the Eagles need to work on as much as possible, again and again and again in real-time games. That's what I want to see from this offense on Sunday. And I know it's kind of vanilla. You're probably not going to get much, but I want to see more motion. I want to see more motion with this offense. We didn't see much of that last year. You know, when you have guys like Quez Watkins and Devontae Smith, like those are two guys. You get them moving. Get them moving. Utilize their quickness, their agility, their speed. Get them in space. We did nothing. We did none of that last year.
No.
And that's something I want to see. I want to see more of that. You know, and I think
you could throw Kenny G in that conversation as well.
I agree, man. I agree. Those are kind of the things I want to see. And lastly, I want to see, you know, Cam Jurgens continue to kind of like show signs of that he's ready to be that next heir to Jason Kelce. Yeah. And offensively, I think I've said it in my head about 1,000 times. It's just the preseason. It's just the preseason. It's just the New York Jets. So we'll see. I want to see the same kind of.
I know, man. It's tough because and you're just craving football season, and you're just craving Eagles football, and you sit there and you get a little taste of it. One series, but that one series can go so far in one direction or the other, where it tears you down or it builds you up in excitement. And Friday definitely built this fan base up in excitement. But we haven't even talked about the defense. And I'll tell you one thing I want to see defensively. I want to see Hassan Reddick or somebody put Deshaun Watson's mitt right in the turf. That's what I want to see.
I love it. Yeah, that's my notes. I want to see more chaos. Let's talk about the defense against the Browns. I want to see more chaos from the Eagles front seven. You know, this is, as I'm sure you're aware, like I've been raving on my excitement to see an Eagles front seven that we haven't seen in many, many years. The Eagles
in a long time.
The Eagles defensive line and linebackers just have a different vibe about them, man. Everything about them is on a completely different level compared to previous seasons, man. I want to see more of Nakobe Dean kind of continuing to grow, allowing the speed of the game to kind of slow down for him so he can utilize that elite IQ and instincts that he has. I'm really, for me, it's the front seven and it's getting to the quarterback. According to Over the Cap, the average NFL team invests $102 million per year on defense. The Eagles lead the NFL with nearly $132 million spent on defense. And this is a team that was bottom tier last year when it comes to sack percentage and getting home. For me, I think the excuses stop in 2022. What I want to see from the Eagles defense is just continuing to be building towards an elite front seven that can get after the quarterback and get home. And I think you kind of touched on it with Hassan Reddick.
So there's two things there, right? A, I agree with everything you said. And we mentioned how deep the front seven is. We already know how deep the defensive line is. And it's been that way for some time now, but they've just added a bit more pieces, right? But when you talk about the linebackers, you've already mentioned it. Nakobe Dean, Hassan Reddick's technically a linebacker. He's going to be on the he's going to be on the edge 98% of the time, coming off the edge, but he is technically a linebacker. Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, and then you have the other guys like a Davion Taylor or Sean Bradley. So they're deep as well, where if an injury happens in the middle of the regular season, you're not like, holy shit, what are we going to, like, we have to roll Nate Gary out there now. Like, this next 2 weeks are going to be horrifying, right? But you bring up the pass rush, and it's funny because last year, you're right, they didn't get home, and you read the numbers. However, the Eagles' defensive line were number one in win rate at the line of scrimmage last year, meaning they were the quickest and they were the most explosive off the line, beating their one-on-one matchups into the backfield. But what was different about last year? The secondary, the scheme, and how quick the opposing team can get the ball out of their hands against this secondary. And that's what you saw a lot of last year. You cannot do that with James Bradbury across from Darius Slay now. You cannot do that with these linebackers. So it's all really, we talk about the offense, it's all up to Jalen Hurts. Correct. The defense is 110% up to Jonathan Gannon now because he has the talent. He has the players in place to run whatever it is that his scheme is. I don't even know what his scheme is. Nobody does. But apparently, he's very highly thought of around the league.
Hybrid. It's like a hybrid multiple scheme defense that'll depend on matchups. We saw a lot of, Javon Hargrave didn't play against the Jets. So you're going to see a lot of 4-3. You're going to see a lot of 3-4. And that, I think that begins and ends with Jordan Davis and what that guy means for this defense.
I think another underrated thing that's not talked about enough, and it sounds kind of cliche or corny, but Davis and Dean playing together is a very underrated topic, in my opinion. Coming from Georgia, coming from one of the best defenses ever on that level, knowing each other, knowing where Nakobe Dean, knowing where Jordan Davis is going to be, Jordan Davis knowing where Nakobe Dean is going to be on the football field. Both are high IQ guys. You already talked about it with Nakobe Dean, right? Both are leaders. So I think them two together, growing together, coming from that program is very under talked about because it's going to help both of them out. They're going to be more comfortable. They're going to know each other better. They're going to know so I love everything about those two on the field together.
Yeah, Jordan Davis is going up this week against J.C. Treader, who's a top 5 center in the NFL. Last week, he went up against Connor McGovern and made him look silly. This week, if Jordan Davis gets that kind of push and dominates against a top 5 center in the NFL, man, get ready, man. Because I put a highlighter. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just fun because think about the clip. I'm assuming you saw the clip of 3 Jets offensive linemen on Jordan Davis, right? You saw that picture?
Yeah.
That was with the second team, dude. You cannot do that week 1, week 2, regular season when Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave and Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham are on the field with him. You cannot do that against him. So that's what's so amazing about this.
Yeah, I put out a highlight reel of Jordan Davis against the Jets, and you've already got the haters coming in like, oh, but I didn't see any tackles for loss or sacks from Jordan Davis. You're not watching the game. If you're making those kind of comments, you have no idea what your expectations should be when it comes to a guy like Jordan Davis. He's the guy that sets up everyone else to feast on the outside 100%. On that defensive line. And it's a joke. It's a joke how many, you go read those comments. I had so many.
Jordan Davis might not even record a full sack or 2 this year. That's not what he's going to be. And anybody that thinks that doesn't know what they're talking about or who he is, you just mentioned it. It's what he's going to set up in the pass rush for everybody else, all the attention he's going to garner, or it's what he does in the run stopping department. And that's what he really is. He's a freaking hotel on the inside of this defensive line. And again, it's another thing you already saw Friday night in his debut in an Eagles uniform is him. I forget what the clip was, but it was essentially he made a running back dance 2 different directions in the backfield and then maybe gain half a yard on the play. That was all because of him.
Yeah. Yeah. If he's taking double, triple teams, I'm good. That's his job. It's as simple as that. People just aren't watching the game. All right. Let's do our way too early play game predictions, Dylan. Who do you got?
Eagles lost Friday night. I'll go with an Eagles W, but really, who the hell knows? I have no idea how long the starters are going to play. I have no idea how long the Browns starters are going to play, what their game plan is. But throw a dart blind at the board, and I'll say that the Eagles pull out a win. But I do think we continue to see the positive progressions from this team. I think the starters defensively come out and have a good showing, and I think the starters offensively put points on the board against Cleveland as well.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Kenny Gainwell. I think Kenny Gainwell plays a little bit on Sunday against the Browns. I could see him getting a decent amount of touches based on what we saw against the Jets. A lot of screens, a lot of some challenge. Let's get Kenny Gainwell some touches. I would like to kind of have a nice kind of aha moment with Kenny Gainwell this preseason. He's back. He's practicing. We don't know yet who's in, who's out yet. So
right. So let me ask you a question, because we're talking about preseason games.
Yeah.
But we know that the Eagles are going to Cleveland this week for a joint practice or two heading into this game. We get to watch one, and the others we just get reports and some highlights from. But what do you put more stock in? Because to me, you put more stock into the joint practice with the ones battle on the ones. Yeah.
Based on history, it's a joint practice. That's what we've seen. They more downfield shots, more kind of creative play calling at those joint practices. I fully believe that. Flyers legend says, who plays more versus Cleveland? Is it Sinnett or Carson Strong?
I'll go with Carson Strong.
Is he out?
Is he?
Is he?
I don't know. If he's healthy, I'm going with Carson Strong, because I think he'll get more of the middle of the game kind of work. Like, I think Hurts will probably get maybe 2 or 3 series. I think Gardner will come in from a couple series, and then I think it's divided by those two. I'll say Strong gets more of the work there, but I don't even know if he's healthy. I don't remember. I don't think Friday night. Yeah, I don't think he played Friday.
I don't think he played Friday. Carson Strong. Reed Sinnett has been a very good training camp. Pretty much across the board, the quarterbacks have been pretty bad. But Sinnett has been the one that's actually played well, and I was not impressed with Reed Sinnett. I would right now say Reed Sinnett, but I was kind of pretty high on Carson Strong. Not so much as like a top, 3-4 round pick by any means. But I did like that pickup. I would like to see what his arm looks like in game action. But Carson Strong has had a horrific training camp. From everything I've read, he's been pretty bad. And yeah, so right now I'd definitely say Reed Sinnett. He gave me Clayton Thorson vibes, man. And, yeah. I'm not in with Reed Sinnett. I'm sorry. So there we go. Player of the game. I went Kenny G. Who was your player of the game?
I didn't pick one. I'll go with. You know what? I'm gonna go with Zach Pascal.
I like it. I like that. I'm good with that. Yeah, he got some nice receptions against the Jets. Saw the middle of the field.
I'll say this. I think Zach Pascal in the regular season is going to be the most productive number 4 wide receiver the Eagles may have ever had. Like because I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play a lot more than people think. I don't think the bridge from Quez to him is as far as people think. People have Quez Watkins hyped up on this pedestal, and you're probably one of those guys. I've seen flashes from Quez, and I know the speed's there. I haven't seen enough to crown Quez Watkins over damn near anybody. And I think Zach Pascal is a veteran wide receiver. He is a bigger target. I think he's 6'2", 6'3". He's had 2 seasons with 5 touchdowns each in Indianapolis, which tells me he can get the ball in the red zone. So I think between the 20s, I think Quez Watkins is a bigger threat. I think inside the 20, inside the 25, you're going to see a lot more of Zach Pascal on the field than you will Quez Watkins.
Yeah, I think that's a great question for like October, November, December, whether or not the Eagles decide to stick with the pass over the run.
Yeah.
Because if they're running the ball as much as they did the second half of last year, Pascal's going to play a lot because that's what he is. He's a run blocker. And then he also has the Sirianni connection. That sounds like a bet to me, Dylan. I think we should put
let's do it.
Yeah.
Hold on. What are we wagering here? Because I don't know if it's going to be targets or playing time, but I'll tell you this. Zach Pascal scores more touchdowns this year than Quez Watkins.
You're in. I'm in. Because I think Quez could have easily had 4 or 5 touchdowns last year alone.
He had 1.
Yeah, but I mean, how many? I mean, there were definitely opportunities there, whether it was like a bad pass or a drop
J.
or
Jill's
whatever.
gone, bro. J. Jill's gone. You don't got to worry about him. He is.
J. Jaw. Yeah, he's gone, man. He's gone. Man. All right. That pretty much wraps up our Cleveland Browns preview, man. Thank you so much for joining, Dylan. Where can we find you, man? What do you got going on, dude?
Man, you can check me out on Twitter at DylanJD98, but check out my work on at DSM_media. That's where you can find all of our great content. Stuff's coming out damn near 7 days a week, multiple shows per day. I'm doing Phillies pregame shows. I'll be doing Eagles pregame shows as well. So yeah, check us out at DSM_media on Twitter and hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We all greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, go please subscribe. Amazing content there. My guys over there bring it every single day. Let's see. Tomorrow night we've got our Eagles roundtable show. You're more than welcome to join, Dylan, if you want. Just more Eagles Browns discussion. And then Wednesday night I've got my MCU moments draft. We are our next movie draft, and it's the best MCU moments. So I'm really excited about that one. I'm not in it, but I'll be watching. All right. So thank you everyone for watching.
You're not in it.
Well, so what we do is like we make it like seasons. So like we're in season 2 right now. And if you win one of the movie drafts, you get the most votes. And your team wins in our single elimination bracket. You're locked in for the winners tournament, like the tournament of champions in season 2. And since I already won, we're in our 3rd movie draft. I won the last one. No, I won the first one. And it makes no sense for me to be in it. Might as well have someone new.
Just a slight flex from Dodge there.
A little bit.
I already won that first one.
Flyers Legend says, thanks for all your hard work, guys. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. So that pretty much wraps it up, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Go check out DSM Media. You'll thank me later. Go follow my man Dylan on Twitter at DylanJD98. Did Matt ever watch The Dark Knight?
Not to my knowledge, no. No, not to my knowledge.
It's a shame. Right.
I know. Gotta tell Gint, man. Gint doesn't know movies, so it's okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. For Dylan, for myself. Go Birds. Stay
Go
awesome.
Birds.